Hello, hello. Yes, this is a very long beer break, and we are here, finally. Our next speaker, the speaker is here? He's here, he's waiting, okay. Our next speaker is head of product of software at Software Group, where he leads a dozen product managers responsible for a portfolio of more than 7 product lines. In the past 10 plus years, he's been a part of creating, managing, and introducing leading and innovative solutions recognized by companies like Forrester, Gartner, and Celent. His passion is to engage and inspire more young people to pursue a career in product management.
But let's not waste any more time and give the stage directly to Hristo, so he will tell us why we should care about empowered teams.
Your applause for Hristo Zahariev!
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Yeah? This is really important because on Monday, I woke up like with 40 degrees temperature, and I said, no way I was gonna make it to this event. So on Tuesday, I went to the doctor and I said, listen, can you help me get up and be there and talk on Friday? And he said, no, you need to spend 5 days at home. And I said, please make me go there and speak. This is gonna be my first challenge accepted talk. So pretty much I've been on steroids and antibiotics so I can make it here. My body is here, but apparently my voice is still at the doctor's office. So that might be on me, but at least I think I'm better now at my Yoda's impersonation, you know? There is no try, only do. So we're gonna do today something that I think fits very nicely with the conference title, Challenge Accepted. It reminds me about the first time I ever had to take a big challenge in my career. It was a time, and I think many of you would be able to relate, when you have a very poor legacy product that you inherited, and with the development team you decided, okay, let's figure out what best looks like, let's combine a ton of scope with the bells and whistles from the modern technology, and let's submit that scope to get some money to develop a new version of that product. So I call this story, How to Build a Porsche with a Budget. How to build a Porsche with a budget for a Volkswagen. And it goes something like this. We collated a bunch of features into a document, we called it a business case, we went to the exec team in a big multinational company, and we said, hey, you know what? This is gonna fix all of your problems. The exec team said, okay, let me take a look. They went through the scope, they went through the document, they said, ooh, this is fantastic. I like the scope, I love the scope. How much is it gonna cost? And we said, it's gonna cost you 5 years of development, $15 million. So they said, just give us 1 minute. They took 1 minute and they came back to us, okay, so listen, best we can do, 10 million for 3 years. We're like, okay. So the point of the story is the following. In the software industry, we face challenges all the time. That's why I love the name of the conference. I think it speaks the truth. Now, the problem with the challenges, however, I think most of us are focusing on these challenges. We're focusing on time and money. Budgets are never enough, and deadlines are always short. And this is how it's ever been. I haven't seen one project, I haven't seen one product development team. I have worked on many projects and led many teams throughout the years of my professional career. And not one time I have seen something to be delivered on time or something not requiring more budget than initially planned, right? So how many of you can relate to that? Has anybody seen this kind of challenge? Please raise your hand. So apparently half of you have been working on perfect projects and products. That's completely fine as well. But let me ask you this. These are the typical challenges we're normally talking about. We are normally talking about the time and money. Why? Because they are tangible. If you have a tangible challenge, you see it and you have the urge to act to it. And normally what happens is people throw money and people at it and say, let's fix it. Now, what I'm going to be talking about with the Empower teams is about I would rather call them even more critical challenges. The intangible ones, the ones that we cannot see, but you as developers especially feel. And I'm going to ask you a question, which is a serious question. There was a study done last year in the US on the big tech industry, so Amazon, Facebook, Google, all of them. They were analyzed, more than 20 companies. And they were assessing what is the average amount of years a developer spends in a big tech company before he leaves. So does anybody want to guess? Who said 2? Okay, let me see. I played water polo at school. Okay, so yes, the answer is 2. Maybe you saw my presentation, but no, I'm kidding. The answer is 2. And now, don't worry, you have your chances. Do you know what the results show about the average years any other person that's not a developer in this same company spends before they leave? 4? Who said 4? Okay, so there is a lady taking a shot. Sorry. So yes, 4.2 years. And now, I asked myself, okay, so why is that? And I think most of you know why is that. Why? Because you're developers. My friends are developers. Recently, I was speaking to somebody, and they said, why are you going to speak on a developer-related conference where you're not a developer? And I said to myself, all my friends are developers, data scientists, full-stack developers, quality assurance engineers, testers, and so on. And I said, because I know their personal life, and I discuss with them, what are the challenges in your profession? What would you do? That allows me, in the professional level, along with my colleagues here, to have the same kind of talks. So we establish relationships, and I can see what's bothering them. So I decided to Google and validate if what's bothering the people, the developers in Bulgaria, to see if this is what was the reason why people were living there. And Forbes came up with 13 reasons of why these developers decide to leave. And now, my question to you is, do you know, out of these 13 reasons, which were the top 3? It's a rhetorical question, this one. I'm not going to throw things in anybody. So the first one was, people were not seeing that they're making a difference. The second one was, they were not feeling inspired. And the third one was, they didn't see, and I think at least I relate with some of that in some of my previous experiences, how their work contributes to the bigger company goals. So these are the top 3. And can any of you relate with some of these things? So have you experienced some of these downsides in your professional career, or do you even experience them now? Only a few. Okay, that's nice. Or maybe the rest of you are still not in the state of understanding. So, do you know in which vocation of this list, like where did money find its place there? Money was not even on the goddamn list. So developers don't care about money, they care about sense of purpose, the same as every other human being. And this is pretty much one of the key things for today, is that while companies are focusing on solving issues with time and budgets and throwing people at problems and calling, let's just hire more resources, like 30 people are going to solve something 10 people in the same company with 5 years of experience are going to do, is going to make a change. People don't care about money. People care about meaningfulness, sense of purpose. They care about accomplishments. They care about support. They care about seeing things done. The way to do that in a company, and I'm going to give you our example in the companies where I go to and the ecosystems we try to develop, is by creating an empowered team. Now, it's not a complex process, it's really simple. It sounds simple, but sometimes the most difficult things are simple. So an empowered team, let's put it into perspective, everybody knows these guys on the screen. An empowered team has simply shared context, that's it. They understand each other, they have different strengths and weaknesses, they have autonomy to make decisions, meaning you don't need a boss or you don't need an exec to tell you what you need to do. They make transformations start from bottom up, and they can, even if some of the decisions are groundbreaking, you can raise them for validation with senior management. So you have a common goal, you work together to it, and if the context changes, something changes, and that impacts the initial decision you make, you can together reprioritize, but you do that together. Now, this is more or less the current scenario in which a lot of the businesses are in. There is an isolation between the different teams and functions, and they don't speak to each other. Or when they do speak with each other, it's with different perspectives. For example, one of the classical examples I like to give is when you ask a salesperson, what the hell are development doing? Why is everything taking so long? Why is everything so expensive to deliver? What the developer is doing is they're trying to technically explain to them what the issues are. And then there is different context, they cannot understand each other. And at the same time, when a salesperson is closing these clients that are too big or don't make any sense, and they're overselling what you're already having and creating tons and tons of more work for you that is going to come with extra customizations because they thought it's going to be done in 10 days. Then again, it's another interpretation that you don't have the full picture of. But until we do something about it, we're going to be in that swimming pool from the picture earlier. So how do we share the context? Well, currently, if you speak about especially CTOs, when I speak to CTOs and technical managers or COOs, their point of view is that an organization is a machine, especially a development organization. They perceive it as a development factory. You have a product line, you have a velocity, you have a number of people on the line, and if one of the batteries burns up or one of the wheels breaks, you just pull another one in. Now, my analogy is closer to an ecosystem. In an ecosystem, the difference with a factory or a machine is you consider that the things that provide and give value are real, and if one of them fades away, then the rest of the ecosystem also starts to fade away slowly with it. So they're irreplaceable, and you need to commit in order to sustain the balance. In terms of the ecosystem, why is that analogy applicable to our organizations? It's simple. One thing provides for the next. In an organization, a sales team provides the opportunities to a pre-sales team. They qualify these opportunities into ones that we should not pursue and the ones that are applicable to our products. The ones that are applicable to our products finally find themselves as projects developers, delivery teams, support teams, product teams, business analysis, and so on begin to work on. During that delivery life cycle, you find yourself as a developer, if I ask you, okay, what do you give? And the first answer you're going to give me, I'm assuming, is, I give you code and features. And this is what we heard a lot about today. But being more or less in a good position to work with all of the teams and seeing where we need development input, I can tell you I see the reason why modern day developers compared to 10 years back have around under 50% of capacity to deliver code and features, whilst in the past they had around 75 or 80. And the reason is things are so technical and so technology advanced now that we need developers when we need to redo our pricing. We need to understand what is the time required to configure some part of the solution, or the time to integrate to a to make a custom integration so that we can adjust our pricing. We need developers to review conceptual diagrams to new clients. So it's not a typical document, but you need somebody with a specific skill that somebody needs to find and allocate and change maybe their Jira work and find their place to you. We need developers when we have trainings for pre-sales, for the technical part of the solution. We need sometimes developers when the demo breaks. So you have that sorry for the language, you have that big list of things that are piling up, kind of a internal invisible backlog onto the desk of every development team. And nobody is speaking about that. Nobody is saying, okay, so let's throw more people at handling that. They're looking at the part where you have the capital investment, which is the product, and they look at the part where you have the operational cost, which is maintenance and so on, because this is what impacts the bottom line of the machine, and that's where the resources are going. Now, enough bad stories, so how do we fix that? The way to fix that, and the first one is to understand, if we manage to look at it as an ecosystem, it brings meaningfulness. It gives us a sense of purpose. And why is that? Because we are sharing the context. We are coming together, and I'm going to give you our example. In our organization right now, it had some of the typical challenges when I started between the different teams. Some teams were not speaking to each other. Some teams were having difficulties in prioritizing what needs to happen next. A typical example is developers not always happy with the requirements of BAs or product teams, or with the design prototypes and so on. Sales not always happy with the estimates that were provided for new deals. Project managers not happy with the timelines given by operations. So pretty much the same mix that you would see everywhere. So what we did, we decided to have a round table, and you can establish an empowered team for a small part of the ecosystem, so for a Scrum team, for example, or you can do it for a wider part of the organization, as we did. So we brought together myself, head of product, marketing, sales, pre-sales, dev, QA, and design. Initially, it was just gonna be me, product, and dev. But then we decided, you know what, the ecosystem is bigger than that, and even if we cover what we're gonna do and how we're gonna spend our time and what our priorities are gonna be, or what issues we're gonna focus on, if you remember the examples I gave you earlier with that backlog, the invisible backlog that's coming, and that you need to do it anyway, and you're doing it anyway in the form of fires and last-minute requests, and you cannot say no because it's somebody's boss, we decided to invite the people who are contributing to that list as well. So we sat down and we did a few simple things. So the first thing was, let's start with what great looks like. Let's just get to know what's the purpose of marketing? What's your main objective? Then with development, then with us. And by objective, I don't mean like, oh, as marketing, we want to position the product and so on. No, like a tangible, in the next 3 months, this is really important to me. I need to update the sales pitch. If I'm a developer, our development head said, we need to transition to Kotlin. We need to migrate these features from these branches to the standard branch, otherwise the cost after is going to increase. So I'm saying about these kind of specific things that they wanted to do. We discussed why they're important, what value they give, so that we can identify if some of the different things we want to do lead to the common business objective. We identified 2 common business objectives. One is if we focus on getting a certain amount of features migrated from some project branches into our standard branch, we're going to be able to update our standard environment first, but also our demo, which is going to help us better position the solution to clients, but also enable potential new clients that are coming to better understand what they're getting. So we're going to be reducing the amount of frustration and customization when a project kicks off. Another thing we focused on is that this kind of initial focus for everybody is going to reduce our time to deliver with 40% for the next customer when we deliver the solution. So it helps sales to reduce cost, it helps pre-sales to demo, it helps marketing to have a better purpose of what the solution is doing, it helps devs and products to clear some stuff from our backlog and our roadmap, and at the same time, it brings value to everybody. Now, we ask ourselves, so what's stopping us of doing that? And some of the things that came immediately, and I think you can imagine, was, okay, capacity. So what we did was we identified all of the items where we had development effort associated, including customizations, release, work management, initiatives like backlog report optimization, and so on. We identified all of the items where we have worked with the development team, and then we reprioritized that list and we said, okay, if these two things are going to be the top priority for the next 3 months, something else needs to go or needs to be reduced. And that's what we did. We reprioritized. We didn't create a new initiative. We didn't create a new overhead for the company, so new cost that needs to be approved by C-level. We simply reprioritized the work. We put against it the common company objectives and what's the company value, and we simply validated that with senior management and C-level, who immediately said yes. What you need to do next is ownership. So you cannot just reprioritize something and leave it there. And that's what we did. We identified that, okay, if we have 5 things on the list, who are the owners and where we have people interacting with each other. And that's what we were doing. It was, you do this once, you don't need to meet up every day. You have it published, you use some kind of a tool. We decided to use, I think tools are okay, GTM Hub for OKR management or task management. But you can use Excel, you can use anything you want. And you start working on them. The goal is to close them. So it's your 5-step milestone where you get something done, you see how you're making a difference. You're going to that bigger common goal. You're doing it together. Now, what happens when you start seeing issues? This is around execution. You're meeting regularly every 2 weeks. And during these catch-ups with a team of 5 or 10 or mostly 10 people, aim for 10 people, you simply say, here are some of the things we managed to achieve. You do a show and tell, raise the dopamine levels. For example, this is a new product description. These are some things about the new persona. And then you move with this is what we need to do for the next 2 weeks. Now, if something from the top priorities is impacted and cannot be delivered, you immediately raise that so that we can pick up the blocker and see, okay, is it a solvable blocker by us? Do we need to raise it to C-level? Does it need investment? And so on. The key goal here is that if you remember the invisible backlog, it's now visible. But instead of having an invisible backlog and figuring out what's the priority, you have now a team, cross-functional team across the company having the exact same backlog, focusing only on 5 or 10 things of it for the next 2 months. And the key point here is you do not touch anything that's not top priority. You do not waste time on anything that's not top priority. If you believe it should be top priority, raise it for a discussion and let's change the priority. Now, making it work. You're going to find 3 key challenges. I think some of the colleagues earlier mentioned them, and I really like that. I was quite surprised to see that at the dev event, was ask why. So one of the things is, sometimes we forget to ask why. If we have put something as a top priority, working on it, it's not happening and happening, maybe there is a reason why it's not happening. And the other one is senior management. There will always be conflicting priorities. So you need to nominate one person of you who is going to be handling that noise coming from senior management. I would recommend for that person to be the most senior in your group, who would have that managerial communication skills when they're required. By managerial communication skills, I'm simply saying to be able to speak to people who have very short patience and filter for no bullshit. Now, as we said in the beginning, we see a lot of challenges. Initially, these challenges were calculatable. Software was simpler, much simpler. Teams were using waterfall. Today, the challenges are, a lot of them are invisible. A lot of people are suffering from psychological stress. This stress is the #1 factor for a lot of diseases like diabetes and cancer and so on today, which is a proven study. And when these challenges start to knock on our door, we have to ask ourselves a question. Do we want to be in an isolated team where we are living in our own kind of desert or something? Or do we want to be in a fully functional ecosystem where we can address something together, reprioritize how we need to handle it, and then smash it out of the park? So, because this is Dev Challenge Accepted, before saying thank you, I want to ask you to address one of these challenges by yourself. There will be a quick, short getting started guide on how to create your own Empower team. It's 4 steps long that you can pick up from the outside. You can see me by the booths and so on, and I'm going to hand you a little guide that you can try out for yourself. And I assure you, in under 1 month, you're going to see a difference, even simply by just starting sharing context. Thank you, everybody. You've been amazing.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Hristo. Do you have any questions for Hristo? In the room? Or you will ask him outside? With the beer?
Yeah, I can have a beer.
Which is the what?
I think it was Software Group's booth. I can show it to you. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Hristo. It was great seeing you here on our stage.
Thank you, guys.
And applause. Big and loud applause for Hristo Zahariev.
Thank you.